The phone lights up after midnight, and your stomach drops like an elevator with cut cables. You don't even know what you're looking for, but you scroll anyway, heart racing, breath shallow. This is where overcoming jealousy begins, not with perfection, but with an honest look at the stories your mind tells when fear takes the wheel. Tonight, let's trade panic for clarity and suspicion for a plan that protects your connection rather than punishing it. You're here because you care about love, and you don't want jealousy to do the slow damage that distance and silence finish. Research shows jealousy is a signal, not a sentence, and signals can be decoded and redirected. This channel, Whispered Hearts. English is where we turn messy feelings into clean language and practical action. So if your chest is tight and your thoughts are loud, you are exactly in the right place. Let me tell you a familiar story, set in a small apartment above a busy street where the late-night buses sigh at the corner. A couple sits at the kitchen table under a warm bulb, leftover takeout cartons pushed aside, eyes that can't quite meet. One partner's voice is clipped and precise, every question a scalpel. The other grows smaller, quieter, already losing the argument that hasn't started. The food gets cold, the distance gets hot, and all the tenderness that could have been shared is locked in separate rooms. When jealousy takes over, ordinary things become suspicious. Laughs in a text thread, a delayed reply, a co-worker's name carelessly mentioned. It doesn't happen all at once. It's more like a slow leak that sinks a boat you meant to sail together. You still love each other, but love feels like the thing you must defend, rather than the place you can rest. Have you felt that shift from warmth to watchfulness in your own relationship? Here's the turn most people miss. Jealousy isn't proof that something terrible is happening. It's proof that something important is at stake. Before you argue, you have to notice what's happening inside. Heat in your face, shoulders raised, thoughts accelerating into worst-case visions. Ask yourself where this started. A past betrayal, a childhood memory of being replaced, or the way social media turns life into a highlight reel. What patterns do you notice in yourself when jealousy shows up? Slow it down with a body check as simple as a red light at a quiet intersection on your commute home. Feel your feet on the ground, unclench your jaw, and breathe in for 4, out for 6. Name what you feel in plain language. I'm scared I'm not important, or I'm afraid of being blind-sided. When you name it, your nervous system stops bracing for impact and starts looking for understanding. What would you call the feeling that usually hides under your irritation? There's a secret most couples never hear. The jealous mind is a fantastic storyteller, and not a very reliable reporter. When details are missing, the brain fills the map with monsters because monsters make you vigilant. If you can catch the story as a story, you can check for evidence like a journalist instead of an overworked detective. Last time you felt that surge, what story did your mind write, and what facts did it skip? But recognition without repair won't carry you very far. The conversation that follows is where love either wins or loses, and it rarely wins by interrogation. Try a reset that sounds more like an invitation than a trial. When I saw your phone light up late, I felt anxious and left out. I need a little reassurance and a plan for how we handle late messages so I don't spiral. This is clean communication because it holds your feelings without holding your partner hostage. Tone is the unsung instrument in this orchestra. Most of us think we're communicating content, but our faces and voices carry the message more than our words do. Gentle eyes, a steady breath, and a slower pace turn a hard conversation into a human one. If you recorded your tone during these moments, would it sound like a bridge or a siren? Some people confuse reassurance with surrender, and others confuse boundaries with control. Reassurance sounds like, "I care about how this lands for you, and I'm willing to be predictable so you can relax." Control sounds like, "Prove to me you'll never trigger me again by shrinking your life." Therapists report that couples who thrive draw boundaries around behavior, not around each other's freedom. What specific behavior would make you feel safer without shrinking who your partner is? But there's something even quieter holding love together that doesn't get headlines. It's the 1,000 small choices that build trust, the way steady rain fills a lake. Predictable callbacks, calendar transparency when plans change, the courtesy text that says, "Running late, excited to see you." These gestures are small enough to miss and strong enough to matter. Trust doesn't require constant access. It asks for consistent reliability. That means choosing habits that your future self can keep on a busy Tuesday, not just promises made on a calm Sunday. If you both agree on a standard, like phones down during dinner or responding within a reasonable window, you free yourselves from guesswork. Which small daily promise could you make this week that would actually be easy to keep? When rupture happens, and it will, because you're human, the repair must be specific. After a blow-up, step outside into the cool night air, feel the quiet of the neighborhood, and come back with 3 simple moves. First, name responsibility without hedging. I got defensive and raised my voice. Second, reflect impact. That made you feel cornered, and I hate that. Third, propose a fix. Next time, I'll ask for a pause before we continue, and I'll check my tone. If you replayed your last repair, where did it land and where did it stall? Your nervous system keeps score of safety cues, and your habits are the points on the board. A weekly rhythm helps. A short check-in on Sunday after coffee, not to audit each other, but to share what's coming up so jealousy has fewer dark corners to grow. Celebrate follow-through out loud, even when it's small. It teaches your brains that steadiness gets noticed. What would a 7-day experiment in consistency look like for you? Now for the curiosity that changes the game. Sometimes jealousy is about the relationship, and sometimes it's about the mirror. If insecurity is an old script that whispers you're replaceable, no amount of partner perfection will erase it. Research shows self-compassion quiets the threat system and softens defensive responses, creating space for actual intimacy. When you speak to yourself in these moments, do you sound like a critic or a coach? Try a private ritual that lasts 2 minutes and costs nothing. Place a hand on your chest, breathe and say, "I'm scared and I'm still worthy of love." Write a single line in your notes app after hard moments. What you feared, what you learned, what you'll try next time. Walk through a park in early spring when the air smells like wet earth, and let your body relearn what renewal feels like. What tiny self-care move would make you 5% steadier before your next difficult talk? Jealousy thrives in ambiguity, and modern life is a factory of ambiguous signals. Social feeds blur boundaries. Co-workers become friends. Notifications invite you into side conversations you never asked for. Not every setting is hostile, but none of them are neutral, and couples do best when they choose the rules of engagement together. Which digital boundaries would feel like relief rather than restriction for you both? Try a 30-day digital experiment designed for calm, not control. Mute the ex who posts just enough to rattle you. Agree on what private means, and what secret means in your relationship, because those words are not synonyms. Decide on disclosure standards before the next awkward moment arises, not during it. Would your future self thank you for implementing one simple boundary today? Some of you are watching after real betrayal, and your hearts are heavy. Rebuilding is possible, but it is not a magic trick. It's a plan measured in behaviors over time. Start with total clarity about what happened, then install visible guardrails that match the wound, shared calendars, temporary transparency, scheduled check-ins. If there's been a fracture, what guardrail would make the next step feel doable? Remember that trust returns to places where truth returns first. You're not aiming to erase the past. You're teaching the present to be different than yesterday. Progress looks like fewer spikes, faster repairs, and weeks that begin to feel ordinary in the best way. What would ordinary and safe look like in your daily routine? And if jealousy shows up without any betrayal, treat it like a misfiring smoke alarm rather than a house fire. Acknowledge the noise, check for actual flames, and reset the system together. Over time, your nervous systems will learn that intimacy doesn't mean danger, and closeness can be generous without being naive. When the alarm blares next time, what will be your agreed reset phrase? Midway through this, pause and know you're not alone here. Whispered hearts. English isn't just a channel, it's a quiet room where people learn to love without performing perfection. We hold space for the awkward and the almost, for couples who are brave enough to ask better questions of each other. What do you most want to feel more of in your relationship? Peace, play, or presence? So let's imagine one evening in the late summer, warm air drifting through the screen door, a fan humming in the corner. You sit together on the couch, phones face down, and you practice a small ritual that is boring to watch and beautiful to live. Anything make you feel off this week? I got triggered when you stayed late and I didn't hear from you, and I need a heads up next time. You've got it. Where would this small ritual fit into your week? Later, when conflict inevitably snaps at your heels, your repair moves are ready. You keep your voice low and your sentences shorter. You name one fear and one need, and you stop when you start to repeat yourself, because repetition is often anxiety looking for a landing pad. The fight shrinks from a thunderstorm to a passing shower. How would you recognize that you are moving from escalation to repair in real time? Take your trust building outside the house when you can. Meet at a park as leaves begin to bronze and swirl underfoot, the crisp fall air reminding you that seasons change, and you can too. Walk side by side instead of face to face, because forward motion turns confrontation into collaboration. What could your walk and talk tradition replace that currently isn't serving you? There's also the gentle power of predictability. Predictability isn't boring. It's the soft blanket that lets adventure feel safe again. Date night on the calendar. 5-minute check-ins on weeknights. Updating each other when plans shift, not because you're tracking each other, but because you're invited into each other's lives. Which predictable habit could become the heartbeat of your connection? And don't forget play, because suspicion hates laughter. Cook a new recipe and burn it gloriously together, or take a class where you both get to be beginners again. When you make space for levity, jealousy has less room to stretch. What's one playful plan you could put on the calendar this month? If you've been carrying quiet jealousy for a while, you may be tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. That's the weight of hypervigilance, always bracing for a blow that may never come. Let's lay it down piece by piece. Better language, softer tone, clearer boundaries, steadier habits. Which piece feels light enough to put down first? It helps to remember why any of this is worth it. You didn't choose this person to audit them. You chose them to build a world together in small rooms and big seasons. A porch at dusk, a freeway merge where a hand finds yours. A winter morning with the heater ticking on and the coffee steaming, the simple relief of being on the same team. What's your favorite ordinary moment that reminds you why this work matters? We've talked about body cues, clearer words, digital boundaries, and the slow, patient architecture of trust. None of it is glamorous, and all of it is powerful. If you're ready to practice, start with one conversation and one habit, and watch the room inside you grow. How have you handled jealousy in the past? And what would you try differently now? In the end, overcoming jealousy is less about silencing a feeling and more about learning to hear it without obeying its every command. You practice noticing, you practice naming, and you practice choosing love that is alert but not alarmed. You honor the fear without letting it drive. If this episode helped, and if the stories we tell at Whispered Hearts English feel like a safe place to learn, I hope you'll stay and keep building better conversations with us.